I'd like to say good morning, St. Louis, along with the Bahamas, New York, Oregon, Chi-Town, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, as well as Virginia. St. Louis, I'm going to take just a moment. I'm not going to talk long. I'm going to take a moment to talk about something that I think is relatively important. And what that is time, as we know time. The question is, are we able to understand time as time truly is, or have we been given a false understanding of what time is based on the mathematician and those that came up with time back in the early days from calculus, etc. I think we have unfortunately discovered time based upon a distorted view. And as a result of that distorted view, we didn't know that we were living, unfortunately, in an incomplete system. In other words, time, as we know time, is not true. Just imagine if everything was inside of a ball, a basketball, but you can only see the external circumference of the basketball, but not the internal parts, which are so tightly dense together. But within that internal part are the subatomic particles, which we have not the power to gain access to. So as a result, we're living our world externally. And unbeknownst to us, we're perishing because we haven't reached the level of power needed in order to see everything as it truly is. But we've been living this way since the beginning of creation, and as a result, we built false doctrine, false gods that are not gods. We've been serving idols, and all appear to be true. Not only that, we're caught up in the physical, the flesh, lust of the eyes. And the reason being is because we were not able to go deep enough to see things that we were incapable of knowing that was there. In other words, if we can reach that level of awareness, we can literally understand that we can reach the speed of light because we can measure the position and the velocity, in which most people, meaning most of those that came before us that had the ability, at least they thought they understood, but now that we're getting strong intellectually, we're now coming to the conclusion that they never understood, such as Einstein and those that had the theory of general relativity, special relativity. Not only that, Heisenberg, speaking of, you couldn't measure the position and or the velocity of an object, so as a result, you can't reach the speed of light. However, if we can reach the molecular subatomic level of what we're trying to see, we can subsequently create a ripple in the fabric of space and time and see the world as it truly is. However, we don't realize that the world itself is not out there, it's in our mind. This is imperative for us to understand, because if we don't understand, we're going to continue to lose energy, as they call it, but light. Subsequently, we're actually dwindling, but we subsequently believe the dwindling is the way it's supposed to be. So we think we're going to heaven once we are buried. But the question would be, in other words, if the noise is shattering all around you, subsequently it's negative noise, which is causing friction and heat, which causes you to perish. And subsequently you think you're going to heaven as a result of perishing. But what happens if everything that you're looking at is in your mind? We're like mind beings. In other words, we are literally encoding the external world around us, which is inside of us. Subsequently, we see it in the physical form. But we must come to the realization that we never reached the level of truth, and that truth is what's going to set us free. We are no different than cavemen. We're one step ahead intellectually, but we think we are astute due to the fact that we haven't met anyone that's far beyond our level of intelligence. So as a result, we think we have the 411, and as a result, we're building things that are basically primitive to those of us that have a level of mind and go far beyond what we can even perceive is capable of achieving. I'm not necessarily trying to go far and beyond. I'm trying to get you to understand that we must finish this course. We must go to the end, and we must be able to measure the position and the velocity to be able to see that everything is in our mind. The trees that you're actually seeing, the wind that's blowing is blowing in your mind. You're encoding it. But in order to understand it, you must have a complete vacuum minus air resistance. Your mind have to create a vacuum, meaning the electrons that are actually spinning must stop. And as a result, you can see things as they truly are. And as a result, you can reverse the laws of thermodynamics. And all that you thought was true you will come to realize was just a false perception of truth. We can do this, and it's imperative for us to wake up. We've been following deception. We've been following false doctrine. We've been following all these things that appear to be true because our minds are incapable of understanding that it's not, because our minds are broken. The time is not tomorrow. The time is today for us to take that mountain back and start building for the first time. And building will take us into the future, which is towards 13.8 billion. and not 100 years of, we'll say, life expectancy, 100 years. And in the beginning, it's 13.8 billion years, which is the totally difference in sound. 13.8 billion years is a perfected sound. 100 years is a imperfected sound, a broken sound that hadn't reached 13.8. So as a result, it's dying, it's decaying, it's in darkness. Once we start going the opposite direction, we can reverse the laws of thermodynamics, which most people think is impossible, but they only think that because they're only utilizing 1% of their ability to know that they don't know nothing. So until next time, I just came up for a moment. I'm talking relatively quick because I don't have much space on the cell phone. In other words, my memory is not much there. So I don't want them to cut me off without me trying to get this in. So if for some reason it shuts down, just understand I need to clean out. I've been doing so many videos, and that's one of the reasons it's cutting out on me, and I'm not able to get my what I want to say across. I'm going to finish this and say this, but if it cuts off, you understand why it cut off, because I don't have enough space. It's imperative that we wake up and come to realize that we must reach a higher level of awareness and cognition. Because if we don't, you're going to continue to perish because you lack the energy, the power to be able to code your existence. So as a result, you're depleting, you're perishing every day. The Bible says one day is 1,000 years, 1,000 years is one day. Have you thought about why the Bible says that? If we can truly begin to understand that knowledge is power and power equals a vacuum, minus negative energy will cause you to reverse the laws of thermodynamics, and entropy will decrease, and as a result you will start seeing order instead of disorder. In other words, as long as you're in disorder, it's going to take you a long time to figure something out. But if you're in order, you can figure out in a attosecond, 1/1000 of a second, because you have more order. So the closer I get to 13.8 billion years, the more order. So if I'm only 100 years, that tells me I'm so far from the ordered state, so it's all disordered. So it's going to take me a long time to figure it out. So as a result of trying to figure it out, I'm going to die before I figure it out. So as a result, I'm going to start hallucinating and believe things that are not true. I'm trying, St. Louis. I'm doing everything within my power and what I'm capable of doing to try to get you to understand that we must travel deeper. We must begin to understand that the Rhodes Scholars, Ivy Leagues, universities, etc., from Harvard, Yale, Princeton, MIT, Oxford, Nobel laureates, those that came before us, from Copernicus, Plato, to Aristotle, to Einstein, to Isaac Newton, were incomplete. But we've been following their lead since the beginning of creation. And as a result of following that lead, we have not reached our full mind development. We must reach a perfect light. A perfect light is minus friction and heat, and minus friction and heat will give you a vacuum. With a vacuum, you will create order and not disorder. And as a result, diseases and infirmities, which are really not diseases and infirmities as you know it. It's just the electrical impulses within your mind are not firing properly. So as a result, you're decaying. So those that look at you are seeing you in a decayed state because their electrical impulses are not firing as they should as well. So that pretty much gives some form of uniformity in the world, but the world itself is in darkness. So I just wanted to come on for a moment. I'm sorry for talking so fast. I just wanted to get this in because I know my time is running short. Shout out to my grandbaby Noah. Granddaddy, love you, son. Continue listening to your mother and father. Shout out to Winton and Catherine. Continue to do what you're doing. I'm proud of you guys. Shout out to Zion. I'm expecting now sometime in October. My grandbaby Now will be here. Zion and Gabe. Shout out to Walter, my oldest son, as well as Danielle. Shout out to you and your family and loved ones. But more importantly, we have to work together, black and white. I had an opportunity to go to Daytona. There was a visual for the police officer that was shot. And I spent some time there, and I want to just